This is a hand knitting stitch, but we can do it on knitting machines, and that's what this movie is about. It's useful because it stops rolling completely, and that's how it's being used on the edges and the center front of this cowl. This is part of a cable book that I'm working on that will appear sometime in 2020. That's when it should reach publication. This is one of the patterns, and I thought you'd enjoy seeing how to do it visually. So this video is on making the double length seed stitch, aka moss stitch, and there is another video on making the cable. I know it looks elaborate, but it's actually a piece of cake. After casting on, we transfer to every other needle on the main bed, every other needle on the ribber. The two beds should be set so that the stitches knit the same size. There is one exception to the rule, and that is on each end, I will always leave the stitch on the main bed. You do not have to do that, but it creates smoother edges and it's one less stitch to transfer. Now knit 2 rows. And transfer each stitch to the other bed except for those stitches on the very edges, which we have already determined will remain on the main bed the whole time. I'm knitting this in bulky yarn, which makes a wonderful hand knit look texture. It also means that the machine is working at the edge of its ability. This is a soft number 5 yarn. So with the fact in mind that we're asking a lot of the machine, we need to be very careful about the positioning of weights, static control, condition of sponge bar, every other thing that can make things hard on the machine. So all the way across I will transfer, except this stitch is not coming to the ribber bed. Transfers are complete. 2 rows. And transfer again. And that's all there is to it. Continual bed-to-bed transfers creates the texture. Throughout my work, you will likely hear me refer to this as seed stitch because that's what I grew up calling it. A double-length seed stitch is how I think of it. However, it is often called moss stitch, and I've heard other things. Let's not argue about whose grandma is right. The stitch arose in so many cultures. There are many ways of looking at it. But the essential thing to remember is that we're knitting knit 1, purl 1 for 2 rows, and then purl 1, knit 1 for 2 rows. Since we're doing it on the knitting machine, the knitting and purling are achieved by transferring from bed to bed rather than forming stitches frontwards or backwards, but it's exactly the same effect. Interestingly, whatever you call it, double length seed stitch, moss stitch, or something else, this fabric doesn't pull in as ribbing does. The reason being that since we only knit 2 rows going one direction rather than, say, 20, it doesn't get the chance to start pulling in before the stitches oppose and stop that action. Well, I hope you'll enjoy making my patterns. You may also want to be aware that you can use this stitch in quite a number of ways, possibly on patterns you already have. It can replace a ribbed hem if you'd rather the hem not pull in. It can make a good cardigan band. And basically it may be used anywhere that you need edges not to roll and yet not to pull in, because the knits and purls cancel the rolling action.